Then I add a new color, so vector 4, and I convert it to parameter, and I name it base tint. And this base tint I want to multiply by a new float called tint power. Because all of this, by the way, is going to end up in not the base color, but in the emission, which means that when I pick a color in here, and by the way, let's set this to white by default, it means that this power multiplied by the color, it can actually go and give it a value of the same color but much higher and make it shine. Well, if you have bloom in your post processor, it will use the emission color and it will make it really like a bloom on the screen. Even if you don't have bloom in Unreal 5, it will make it get picked up for actual lights emission in Lumen, which is lovely. So we multiply next the result of this with the lerp. It's perfect. And now is the fun part, that add up there, we move this to over there. And the result of this goes into another multiply. And by the way, here it might actually start to be a bit hard to follow. So I apologize, but bear with me and you will see where we're going. And this will go into an add node, and I'm not adding anything here. Imagine these are like branches. These branches will develop in a minute to like build up different effects. This multiply and this add branches, they essentially will in a moment let me build up this circle in the middle, and then there's another circle going around, and then this depth. So see how the opacity happens at the edges. We don't have any of that over here, but we're building it up right now, and that is why we add the multiply and the add. But you know what, like I keep mentioning this depth, and it is actually relatively easy and quick to add. So let us do that, and then we'll continue with adding the dots in here. So I will drag expression called depth fade. And this depth fade uses, depth fade gives us this, where it samples one of the buffers of the scene, and wherever there's an intersection of meshes, it kind of like gives it that fading, and we'll use that fade as an opacity control. In here we will add two floats, and the top one we'll say is called opacity depth, and by default we'll place it on 1, and lower one we'll say is fade distance depth, and we'll leave it to 0, 0 as it is. That goes into our opacity. That is why we changed to translucent blend mode. We put that into opacity, and let's have a group again, and this will be my second group, or third. I start counting from 0. Number 2, depth, priority 0, depth, priority 1. Save, cool. Now if we select this and we navigate to the material, double click it, I'm going to drag my material to the side of the screen, like so, and then I'll show you the depth. We expose it and we start playing with it. And the opacity depth kind of like makes my thing fade away, but first we want to put like a higher value in here. And see, when I go like 200, and like it literally disappears in the spots where the plane intersects with the other thing. It's just incredibly cool. Look at that. I absolutely love it. So that will layer us a really nice effect, and let me see in my other one what values I used, and we'll put them to that. So because we're trying to accomplish the visual that I have. So yeah, we're gonna have 1 and 75 for fade depth distance. Save, place it back there, go in here, and yeah, look at that. Really cool. Let's go back here and let's continue building up our circles. So in order to create a Gaussian dot, that's what I'm going to call like this circle that is in the middle, this one, we want to use a few different expressions. So go here and let's start building the first one. We say sphere mask. Okay, this is a utility node that essentially lets us input a radius, hardness, and texture coordinates, and it literally just builds a circle like a Gaussian dot. What better than that? On the top we want texture coordinates, because that's how it usually works in the A. And in the B we want a value of 0.5, which essentially just centers it to like the center of the UV is like there where that thing is. It doesn't have anything to do with this yet, but that's where like our dot will appear, or our Gaussian dot. And then we want 1, 1, and we go convert to parameter, and this is radius of A. I just say A, but what I mean is like Gaussian dot A, and then convert hardness A for the hardness of our second dot. And in both, by default value, I'm going to put 0.5. And in radius, and in this, and if I preview this sphere mask, you will just see that it is literally just a Gaussian bell, a dot, a circle. The way I handle this, by the way, is it gets a bit messy, but essentially I create two different dots and I change their size, and I kind of make a circle B into another circle, and if A is 1 and is white, then B might be smaller and is black, and it gets abstracted, and I kind of like build a shell of a circle, a 2D shape, instead of just like an entire flat dot. And it's a bit messy, but I combined three different ones in kind of like bizarre ways. Through a bit of playing and giving each a different color, I managed to at the end accomplish this visual here that we have. So let's start some housekeeping from the get-go, and let's say that this is 3 Gaussian dots, and this will be 0. This will be 1, and we'll go Gaussian dots for it as well. Save. Next up, we want to subtract, oops, that's wrong. Right click, subtract. We want to subtract from this a smaller circle, as I kind of started explaining at the start. So copy all of this and just paste it here. Perfect. Rename it, so this is radius B, and this is hardness B. Select top one, answer priority 3, bottom answer priority 4. And this gets subtracted out of here. Cool. And now this one I want to multiply with a color, okay? Because this all will combine into this, and them combined go into color, emission color. That's how we're building our visual, so that's why we're introducing another color here. So place 4 and say convert to parameter, and let's go with dot emissive color, and for the default value I go something reddish just for the sake of visualization, something like this. You don't need to pick this color perfectly, by the way, because we're going to be changing it in every other child instance, and in there I'll give you the color that you actually want in order to accomplish the blue, the red, and the yellow, and the rainbow, and everything. So that branch is done there, but we're not like fully finished yet, because next what we want to do is we want to introduce a third circle. So copy all of this and paste it here, and we want to say radius C, hardness C, housekeeping, so this goes on to 5, this goes on to 6, this, by the way, I might leave to 0, so it will be kind of on the top together with the other 0. Let's hope that they go. No, you know what, like actually let's, if this is 5 and 6, let's say that this is 7, so it's a color at the bottom. Cool. And this dot C, it also wants a color, so we're gonna copy this and paste it here, and we're going to rename it by pressing F2 and say dot C emissive color. And this one I think I left by default to black, but again I already mentioned white doesn't really matter, but let's have it that way. And here our priority I will say 8. Okay. And now what we're gonna do is, if this gets multiplied there, there's gonna be a subtract. And this subtract, in the B, we put this branch. On the top, we put that branch, okay? And I then multiply the result of this with the color, this color at the bottom. And this color essentially kind of ends up being a flat color on the back of everything, while this color ends up being like a dot color in the middle, in the very middle. So a bit of a messy mess, but like it really is cool and gives us some cool control over things. And now, if these are our circles, I'm going to describe them, by the way, and let's say comment and say Gaussian dots. I'm going to move them all a tiny bit like here to the side. These, well, look at that, it all keeps growing, but these like can go to the very side here. These multiply for an A, we'll use this here, okay? And by the way, sorry, let's drag that like that and like this, so it's actually easier to control. And also highlight, it's from the lerp that this goes. There we go. And drag this, well, I keep dragging stuff around, I apologize, but like place it there and then like this. That's cool. That can go here. We can make shortcuts, by the way, as literally we can have a thingy that ends here and fits into it and teleports to another spot, but we're not gonna do that now. Let's keep it simple. The next move is that we want to multiply this lower branch. So, no, excuse me, we multiply the lowest branch with this. And what we want to do next is this branch here, we want to multiply it as well with the same thing. And I'm going to double click here to give me this point and then drag that point there. And that way it's a tiny bit like more manageable, not really, because we're already making spaghetti, but you know what I mean. And I would drag that here. And this multiply and add that we had before will now finally be put to some use, because in the first multiply we put that, and then in the add we put this, okay? And let's move that back so it's more readable. And now the result of this actually goes in emissive color, while the base color that I was connecting that to is not needed anymore, and we can just move this color and place it in there. Wonderful, like so. I will comment on this and say depth, even though it's slightly obvious, and I'll comment on this and say base color, and I'll put a comment here both for you and me, but well, no, I won't comment, I'll just say it to you. This base color, not very important, because the buildup of the emission overpowers it and it's more important, and that is what we care about. Cool, so let's save that. Okay, so we have built that up and it looks black, and I believe that what we want to do is here on the opacity mask, we want to change the default, okay? So let's go back, and here is our opacity mask, and we want to change, to click it, and here in the Perny noise we want to place another Unreal default texture, and that's 127 gray. Cool, yeah. So I think we have some problems somewhere, so let's troubleshoot together. Okay, so what I missed is the values here are by default are 0.05, and I kind of don't like that. So let us keep the very top circle 0.5, and then here for the smaller one, so that is B, we go 0.2. And look at that, immediately we get a nice visual. And then the next one is going to be 0.2 as well. Perfect. And we save that. And with that, we are there. We've built it up. So look at this. This is what we have right there. And what I have on the parent that uses this one, right, is actually, let me drag the window for you, it's actually this. So you can see it's actually the same, but here it's not obvious that I'm panning a texture, while in ours it is, so it is all correct. So that means that we're ready really, our parent is ready, and in the settings of this child that we made, we now want to change to like something interesting, not that, something else that we will make. And we want to control our colors, change this and that, and we will essentially get to the blue version. And by the way, look at that, I don't really like that. So let's expand that and see. So global scalar parameters, let's do a final housekeeping, and then we'll get into the next part, which is creating the textures. So these opacities, I want to go into textures. Tint, power, and power, yep, let's do that. So go back, zoom into min opacity and max opacity, it's right there. Move it to textures, move the other one to textures. We want 0, 1, the top one will be 2 for sort priority, bottom one 3. Save. There we go, that moved there. Dot emiss, so these colors will go into the Gaussian dots. So go back, this color, group Gaussian dots, group Gaussian dots, save. Vortex scan, base tint and color, I want in textures. They're not really textures, but they kind of control the color of that, so I like it. So base tint and color, let's find them. Base color is first here, put it in textures, and then base tint, where was that? Here. I put that in textures as well. Save. And take a look. Tint power, color map emission, we want there as well. So tint power, color map emission, not Gaussian dots but texture. And yeah, that's everything ordered. Let's stick this on and demonstrate actually really quickly, because I didn't demonstrate to you, but like, see, big circle, its hardness, small circle in the middle, and I can make that. And then a really like different one that's black, but like that controls like a color that when we multiply them, they kind of make something new. Let's put it to like that. I'm just testing here, by the way, you don't need these colors. You can play around like that as well. And yeah, I can do this broken stuff. It might appear like this C is not really that useful, but multiplying the two colors, and thanks to it, I kind of get to the end of like the visuals that we like of the gate. So we keep it. And this I'll reset back to the defaults. Click here and save. And with that, first part is done. Next, we'll head into Substance Designer, where we will create the base tiling texture, kind of a colorful, interesting gradient with a noise that goes in there and replaces the clouds and gets multiplied with different colors in what we already built in the shader in order to get us to this blue visual. Cool. Tint power, color map emission, we want there as well. So tint power,